right inside. I'll get it.
Thank you, Charlie.
I won't be in tomorrow. I'll see you Monday. Good night, Charlie.
Good night.
Oh, my briefcase.
I'll get it for you, Mr. Norton.
Thanks.
No kiss?
No kiss.
I am not late.
It's only 5:30.
Well, we said 5, didn't we?
I had visions of you scattered all over the landscape in little pieces.
I didn't know you loved me so much.
You shouldn't be let out alone.
What makes men think women are bad drivers?
Women drivers? What are all the packages?
For Bobby's birthday tomorrow.
Oh, good. Well, looks like your rear fender. You had a little trouble parking.
Oh, but I didn't. I had the most wonderful luck. The most beautiful big empty parking space right in front of the toy store. I got in there quick.
I'll bet.
You my son.
Well, thank you, Charlie. Come on, slide over.
What for? I'll drive.
No, you won't.
Come on, get in. You're tired.
That's just the point. I'd like to have relaxed.
It's this car. It always does that. You know what?
What?
Julie told me if I didn't get a shampoo and a set for a party tonight, I'd disgrace her.
You should do it more often. Your hair looks pretty.
That's funny. I didn't get to it.
So, everything went fine today.
Mm-hmm.
And great luck parking.
Mm-hmm. Except those one-way streets should be abolished.
What about fire hydrants and bus stops? Abolish those, too?
What are you gabbling about?
This?
Must be a joke. Where'd you get it?
Right there.
Well, it isn't mine. Unless someone stuck it in behind my back when I got out of the car.
That's a habit they have.
Anyway, I never saw any fire hydrant.
The judge will doubtless recommend glasses, among other things.
So that big, beautiful, empty parking space was a snake in the grass.
Yes, my love. Don't try to pass that car on this hill. You know better than that. Suppose there's a car coming.
Don't be silly. I can make it.
You see? Now, get over. Get over!
Don't get excited. I'll get over. I told you I could make it. Lights on in the nursery. Bertha's giving Bobby his supper.
All's well with your world.
Yes.
There's a light in the barn. Fritz must be feeding the cows.
And all's well with your world.
Hello, Bluster, old boy.
Hi, Joe. He's been out with a skunk again.
What's that?
Blackboard for Bobby.
Isn't he a little young?
Not if he's going to be an architect like his father.
Also, it was reduced.
Always your loving wife. I bought a present for you, too.
You did?
Mm-hmm. Just for being Bobby's father.
Good.
Like bad ties?
Claudia, you didn't.
A green one and a red.
Oh.
It's good to go to New York for a day just to get back to Connecticut.
Isn't it?
Oh, don't put those down there. I want to hide them in my closet upstairs.
10 to 1, you won't wait till tomorrow morning to give them to him.
What are you looking for?
My pipe scraper. What did you do with it?
I ate it. For lunch. Yesterday. Exactly where you left it.
Oh.
We'd better go up. We've got to get dressed.
A minute.
You know, I think I'll just ignore the whole thing.
Ignore what?
This ticket.
Oh, sure. That's why they give them to you.
What'll happen if I do?
Jail.
I can't. I'm a mother.
So was the woman who committed murder last winter, but they hung her this morning.
No, David, I mean it.
So do I. As your counsel, I advise you to skip the country till the whole nasty business blows over. Trip to California, for example. Mrs. Norton would thus escape the clutches of the law, and Mr. Norton would attend the Convention of American Architects.
David, they asked you.
Not yet.
You beast.
Well, it's your own technique.
Well, for your sake, I hope they do ask you, but for mine, I hope they don't.
Generous little soul.
It's only because I love you so much. 2 whole weeks without you, I'd die.
That's why you're coming with me.
No, sir.
I'd like to know why not.
I'm still a mother.
Lots of women are. You meet them on trains or stay in the best hotels. You ought to get around more.
Darling, let's not talk about it until it happens. Come on now, we've got to spend a little time with Bobby. Do you think Julia would prefer me to wear my yellow or my yellow?
You're yellow.
This dress is getting to be a landmark. Every time people see it, they say, well, Claudia's here tonight.
It's high time you got a new one, you know it?
So now you're ashamed of me.
How'd you guess it? Why'd we ever let ourselves get roped into this shindig anyway?
I can't imagine. You must have been out of your mind.
Out of my what?
Mind?
Out of my mind. You accepted.
Yes, I guess I did. Well, she's your brother's wife, not mine. Sit, please. Excuse me.
Excuse me.
Evening dress does not do one thing for me.
What do you want it to do?
Make me glamorous.
I think you're glamorous, Mrs. Norton. Very glamorous. You know, for 2 cents, I'd stay right here and let the party go to blazes.
Let's.
Hey.
All right. Oh, look at me.
I am. You're as fresh and sweet as a spring morning.
Yes, Don, and it's your fault. The whole trouble with my looks is that I look too happily married. Sticks out all over me. Marriage doesn't stick out all over you, though. You look positively single.
An inch to spare. Not bad for a man with a baby.
I'm going in to look at him again.
No, you're not. You've looked at him enough.
I'll only be a minute.
I'm not fooling, Claudia. Don't be neurotic.
He's been sniffling.
Isn't that terrible?
I noticed you called the vet when one of your pigs coughed yesterday.
Well, that's different. Pigs are delicate.
Oh.
Look, darling, I love Bobby, too, but marriage comes before children.
Well, I should hope.
Anyway, there's nothing wrong with him. Except his mother.
Tell Mama there's nothing wrong with you.
I want my present.
Your birthday's not until tomorrow. Bertha, are you sure he ate all of his supper?
Oh, even his spinach he ate. You see, his nose don't run anymore. And also he has no fever.
No fever? Say, that's serious.
I know you think I'm a fool. He looks all right and he acts all right. Yet I have an idea he's not all right.
You're just looking for an excuse to stay home. Now, scat.
He's right.
Good night, fella. Sleep well.
Thanks, Daddy.
Come on.
You sure you have my sister-in-law's number?
Yeah, I know.
Good night, darling.
You look pretty, Mommy.
You look pretty, too. Good night. Good night.
Good night. Have a good time.
Well, it's about time. Hello, David. Everybody's here.
Hi.
I hoped you'd come early. I want to talk to you about something.
Julia?
Hello, Claudia. You didn't have your hair done. But you look very sweet anyway.
Hello, children.
Hello, Hartley.
How are you, Claudia? My, you look
Say
very...
it sweet.
You take Claudia in, Hartley. I want to talk to David.
I want to hear, too.
Look, I've seated you beside Elizabeth Van Dorn.
Who am I sitting next to?
Oh, that doesn't matter, but it's Brian O'Toole. He's quite amusing. He's a spiritualist.
She means charlatan.
He's a house guest of Edith Dexter, so I had to ask him. You'd better go back in, Hartley. It might look funny. Now, listen, you two. I want you to be nice to Elizabeth. Her husband was an associate of Hartley's, and before he died, he bought some property up here. Elizabeth's going to build, and she's going to build big.
Silly woman.
David doesn't like big houses.
Well, that doesn't matter. The point is, she doesn't have an architect.
Dime a dozen. Easiest thing in the world to get.
That's exactly why I seated you beside her. You've got to be nice to her.
I promise you nothing. I don't like fussy rich widows.
City's all right if you like it, but I prefer the country.
Oh, so do I. Don't you agree, Mr. Norton?
Oh, yes, I do.
You naughty boy. Why don't we ever see something of you? Oh, that's your little wife across the table, isn't it? She's so sweet.
You better not let her hear you say that.
I'm so sorry, Edith, you couldn't have been with us last weekend. That Westchester group is charming, very receptive.
Must have been a relief. There are so many skeptics in the world.
Nothing like an oyster, is there? Don't you like them? How can anybody not?
Yeah, I have mine, too.
Julia'd have a fit.
What Julia doesn't know won't hurt her.
Oh, my fork.
What's happened to your passion for oysters, Phil?
Oh, you do like them.
Oh, please don't. I can't eat them.
I'm terribly sorry.
It's quite all right. You're so left well enough alone. I'll have to slip them to you one by one.
Oh, I never eat more than 4 anyway.
Nonsense. All well-behaved oysters come in 6s.
Oh, but David likes them even more than I always make him eat my last 2. I tell him they don't agree with me.
That sort of thing belongs to very special marriages. I dare say yours is very special.
You are psychic.
Good heavens, no.
But Julia...
The gentleman on your right is the mystic. I'm Philip Dexter.
Oh, Julia ought to use place cards.
I think you'd be terribly interested in what I've done to my terraces. I found the most wonderful landscape man. He's done truly miraculous things. Of course, he's a teeny weeny bit on the formal side, but then I like that sort of thing. People are getting sort of lax these days, and I think it's high time we went back to our old standards of living, even in our gardens.
That must be your wife sitting next to David. It's too bad he can't get a chance to talk with her. She's lovely.
She is very lovely, but that's not my wife. That's Elizabeth Van Doren.
Oh.
My wife's the one who asked about the oysters.
Do you mean to say you've lived in Eastbrook 4 years and don't know where our place is? Why, is that tremendous stone house on the point? Ask anyone where the Riddles live and they'll direct you.
Oh, you're Nancy Riddle.
Of course, didn't you know?
Why didn't you say so?
Say what?
Who you were.
Why?
Why? Julia wanted me to be nice to you. I decided I wouldn't. I thought you'd be Mrs. Riddle with terraces.
I know what you mean. But you misjudged Julia. I asked to meet you.
Why?
Because I admired your Merchants Bank building and the new trade school.
You did?
I did. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. I want you to design a house I'm going to build. We bought the old March place up here about 10 years ago.
Oh, was that place yours? I've always admired that property. Wonderful barns.
The house burned down the winter my husband died. We never had a chance to live in it. Now I wanted to make it come to life again. Function, produce.
Oh, you're going to farm it.
And not as a hobby.
Somehow you don't strike me as a woman with hobbies. Funny thing, I've always been crazy about that property ever since we came to Eastbrook to live. The barns just fit into a setup I've had in mind for our own place someday.
Do they? Tell me about it.
Well, wait till after dinner. I'll get a pencil and show you.
Now, if you put your reserve silo here...
Which is much more practical.
And your beef cattle next to it...
David?
Oh, hello, Don. Come on in.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to disturb you.
You're not.
Mr. O'Toole's going to give a seance. Don't you want to listen?
No. Unless you do.
Oh, I'm afraid I don't put much stock in that sort of thing.
Good for you. You better stay in here and keep out of mischief.
No, I want to watch. You know, you're not at all what David and I expected, Mrs. Van Dorn.
Well, you two are exactly what I expected.
Oh? How did you know about us?
Oh, we've driven past your house once or twice. Candy's crazy about your Great Dane.
Who's Candy?
Candace, my daughter. She's 12. At the moment, busy having the measles.
Oh, I should think you'd be worried to death.
Oh, I used to worry. Now I just let life happen.
I wish Claudia had some of your philosophy.
I'm an awful liar. I've been on pins and needles all evening, even though Candy's practically over it.
That makes me feel much better. I'm going to listen to the spirits. Bye.
She's sweet.
Yes, she is.
And somehow I seem also to get the vibration of verdant plains, a vast open country, sheep, perhaps. Australia.
It's fantastic.
I have to give it to you, old boy. I was born in Tasmania. Thanks.
Brian is extraordinary, isn't he?
I don't know how he does it. What you told me about my gallbladder, O'Toole. It's exactly what the doctor tells me.
Yes, I got a very clear picture in your case.
Do you know any more tricks, Mr. O'Toole?
Oh, these are not tricks, Mrs. Norton. What I'm doing is called psychometrizing.
Well, it's fun anyway. Please do some more.
Mr. O'Toole, tell me what you get from this.
I'd be very glad to. I see a man and woman standing close together. They're in evening clothes, although the night is cold and heavy with mist. They're standing at a ship's rail. This is very strange. The ship isn't moving. I see the woman reach to her throat to loosen a necklace. And she says, Oh, I'm so sorry. This probably doesn't make sense. I couldn't get a clear picture.
But it does make sense. It's what really happened. The Titanic. My mother was lost, but my father lived. She gave him her necklace just before she stepped into the lifeboat.
Look, I've got goose flesh.
Let me have something of yours, Mrs. Norton. No, wait. I don't need anything. Someone you love very much is standing beside you. She passed on not long ago. She's so happy. She says, Claudia, I've tried so long to get through to you.
It's my mother. Please go on, Mr. O'Toole.
It is your mother. She wants me to tell you that... What? Oh. Oh, no. No, I won't. She doesn't want me to frighten you, but she wants me to warn you that your husband...
What about David?
Your mother says, tell David not to go on any trips, or he'll have a serious accident.
That settles it. He is not going to California.
Ah, yes. That's what your mother tried to get through to me. California.
The Architects' Convention at Los Angeles. That's right.
Perhaps Mrs. Norton has changed her mind about Mr. O'Toole doing tricks.
Yes, I have. It is also true. My mother died 4 years ago.
Mr. O'Toole, won't you please try this?
With pleasure. This handkerchief has something
Don't you believe a
to do
word
with
of
a
it.
marriage.
You're as bad as David.
Oh, yes.
I wish he'd get finished in there. What time is it?
It's 10 past
I
10.
see a country
Why, aren't you enjoying yourself?
Well, yes, only I'm a little nervous about Bobby.
It's spring. The wisteria is in bloom. A young gentleman and a young lady are seated in a carriage. Yes, they are going on a picnic. Do you recall any such incident?
Why, yes. Yes, I believe I do. I went on so many picnics.
It's very interesting. Of course, I don't know much about this sort of thing, but I can readily see it requires
Anything
great
I can do?
concentration.
What's wrong with Bobby?
Oh, nothing really. I guess Mr. O'Toole just made me a little jumpy. Anyway, I can't drag David off just for a whim.
Well, if it'll make you feel any easier, I'll run you home for a look at the youngster and we can come right back.
Would you? I don't want to drag you off either.
I'd like to be dragged off. This is Edith's meat, not mine.
I'll get my cape.
It's rather difficult to explain. Sometimes I don't get anything at all. And other times the picture, the vibrations are very clear to me.
This is a foreign car, isn't it?
Yes, it's English.
Doesn't that right-hand drive seem funny? I'd get all mixed up.
I'm used to it now. Would you like to try it?
No, thanks. We'll be home in a few minutes, and Bobby's probably sleeping blissfully.
It's better to find out than worry all evening.
And you don't put any stock at all in what Mr. O'Toole said?
Well,
What about Hartley's gallbladder and Mr. Riddle's sheep, and what about Julia's necklace?
I grant you that Mr. O'Toole is a very sensitive gentleman, as well as a very observant one. Hartley's eyes are distinctly on the liverish side. Mr. Riddle speaks with an Australian accent, and everyone knows that Julia's mother went down with the Titanic.
What about David's trip to California?
Oh, you gave him the cue for that. He merely said a trip. You mentioned California.
I did?
You did.
Well, I still believe in the hereafter. Oftentimes I feel my mother's very near me.
That's a wonderful way to feel. You know, Edith and I lost a son.
No, I didn't know.
Edith's never really gotten over it. She goes from one medium to another. It isn't good.
No, that isn't good. Maybe that's how you knew how I felt about Bobby.
Yes, I expect it is.
There's a light in the nursery.
I can think of several reasons why there might be.
But there isn't. Please hurry.
Did the doctor say he would leave right away?
Yes, Bertha, yes. I think maybe we should telephone Mrs. Norton.
No, it will frighten her. Better we wait until the doctor comes. Oh, here he is now. I go quick and bring him up. Oh, I thought you were the doctor.
What is it, Bertha? What's the
Oh,
matter?
there's nothing to worry about.
Well, then why did you call the doctor? Bobby. Bobby, darling. Bobby. Why doesn't he open his eyes?
He's asleep.
His face looks so pale. He looks so pale and little. Bertha, what is it?
Oh, he'll be all right. Let's tell Mr. Norton to come upstairs.
He isn't here. He's still at the party.
Can I be of any help?
Mr. Dexter brought me home.
Well, what's wrong?
Oh, he was perfectly all right. Mrs. Norton was the only
Bertha,
one.
his temperature's 104. He's burning up. He's unconscious. Oh, we've got to do something. Oh, he's stiffening out.
Looks like a convulsion. Here, let me have him.
Fritz, hot water in the bathtub, quick.
You better run downstairs and get some dry mustard. And bring some cracked ice, too, and a pan to soak some towels in.
No, you go. Mustard I got. You get the other
Please let me
things.
stay here.
The only way to help us. I only heard of mustard for convulsions.
The other stuff is just to keep her downstairs till it's over.
Oh, good. Get those big towels, Fritz, quick.
Yeah.
In the linen closet.
You can know all about these things.
Just like you know, too.
My son had a convulsion.
How do you feel now, old-timer?
Fine. I want my presents.
Oh, he wants his presents.
It's midnight. He's 3 years old.
Congratulations.
Can I have my presents now?
Maybe could he see just one, Doctor?
Oh, I don't know why not. May make him drop off to sleep.
I'll get it.
Bertha,
Yes, darling?
I want some water.
That's all right. Let him have all he wants, but not too cold. I'll leave the prescription here. You can have it filled in the morning. That'll be time enough.
Would you like me to take the blackboard in for you?
Would you?
Surely.
Thanks.
Here. You better take one of these.
I don't need any medicine.
Yes, you do. Now take one. These things are always much harder on the parent than the child. You're racing like a steam engine.
David?
What's the matter, darling?
Oh, I'm all right. It's Bobby. He had a... Well, he's over it now.
Oh, he's fine.
What was it, Doc?
Convulsion.
Convulsion? From what?
I think it's the measles. It often starts this way. By tomorrow, he'll be broken out and probably look like a boiled lobster.
Was it serious?
Oh, commonest thing in the world. Take the usual precautions. Be careful of his eyes, of course. There's nothing really to worry about.
I think I'll go in and see him.
And this won't be the last thing you'll go through with that young man.
Hello, Norton.
Hello, Dexter.
He's almost asleep.
I'm a little in a fog about this whole thing, but thanks for taking
afraid Bobby was a little ambitious.
Yes, it'll be a few days before he'll feel literary.
Well, I better be getting along. Edith will be wondering what happened to me.
I don't know what we would have done without you.
Oh, nonsense.
Now, you go right to bed. Bobby will sleep all night, and I'll call in and see him first thing in the morning.
Good night. And thanks, both of you, for everything.
See you out.
Well, that's not necessary. We'll find our way.
Good night.
He's asleep. Now you go to bed. Bertha watches him tonight.
I'll watch him. You go back to Fred's.
It isn't necessary for either of you. Dr. Harry said he's all right. Let him sleep.
Mr. Norton is right. Tomorrow he has nicely the measles. The trouble is over.
I hope so.
We should have listened to her. She knew better than we did with her feelings.
The eternal female.
Then I would have known. No, it was the mother in her. Good night.
Good night.
I put the light out.
Why didn't you call me?
Oh, David, everything happened so fast.
You left the party. I could have taken you.
You'd have thought I was silly.
You weren't afraid to have Phil Dexter think you were silly.
He didn't. He understood.
That's very touching.
Instead of being glad your son's alive...
Oh, stop getting emotional. You heard Dr. Harry say there's nothing wrong with him, nothing to worry about.
Nothing except convulsions and measles.
He's over the convulsion, and measles aren't anything. I just left a youngster who had them. She looks the picture of health.
Who?
I drove Elizabeth Van Doren back to the inn. Candy was awake. I saw her.
Oh. And if I had called you Julia's, you wouldn't have even been there.
Julia knew where I was. Oh, so he's had his birthday, too.
Yes, and I'm thankful he could ask for it. You sound actually resentful.
I am resentful. My place was here. How do you think I feel to come home and find all this has happened while I'm allowed to stay on at a stupid dinner party?
You seem to have been having a pretty good time when Mr. Dexter took me home. That's why I didn't disturb you.
That's a rotten thing to say.
Well, you've said some pretty rotten things, too. I'm going to sleep in Bobby's playroom where I can hear him.
You sleep where you belong.
Where I belong. The trouble with you is you love yourself more than you love your own son.
Take that back.
I won't.
You've as much understanding of a man as
And you've as much understanding of a woman as a... I've been through quite something. While you were out...
I know, gallivanting around the countryside with Elizabeth Van Doren.
Exposing your son to measles by seeing her daughter.
Fine. Cool.
How is he?
Wonderful.
Go back to bed. I put another cover over him.
Don't you want to come home?
Yes.
He's all right now. Isn't he?
You love him, too. An awful lot.
An awful lot. And I love his mother.
All right?
In inches, Mommy.
Yes, I know, but remember what you promised, not to scratch.
I won't.
Funny face. Bertha, do you think there's too much light in here?
No, Mrs. Norton, with the shades down, it's good like this.
that some rash he's got this morning?
He says it itches him. Did you ever have measles?
What do you think I was, underprivileged?
Isn't it nice of it to be Saturday so that you can stay home for Bobby's birthday?
Very nice of you. What's that?
Coat. Phil Dexter forgot it last night. David, you ought to get a coat like this. It'll look good on you, too.
Must you bring up his name so early in the morning?
Could you ever be jealous?
Look here, what kind of a fella do you think I am? Did I ever have the measles? Could I ever be jealous? Certainly. What time is lunch?
We haven't had breakfast yet.
I promised Elizabeth Van Dorn I'd walk over her property with her. That was BS, though.
BS.
Before spots. Think I ought to stay home?
Not on account of Bobby, don't.
Any other unaccounted you can think of? I could phone her and call it off.
No. Why are you so interested in her property? You sound as if you're going to take the job.
I am. In the words of Julia, she's going to build big.
I thought you hated big houses.
This isn't going to be a big house. It's going to be a big farm unit. The sort of thing you and I have dreamed about for years. I'll get a big kick out of it.
I hope that's all you get out of it.
Jealous, too? Good.
Am I underprivileged? David, last night frightened me. Don't let's ever fight again.
Well, that's a big order. But I'd rather have you fight back than be one of those noble women.
That's not what I mean. I was frightened because the first time we went beyond our own four walls...
Look, darling, no matter what outside influences come into our lives, nothing can hurt our marriage if it's strong and clean at the core.
But you have to work at it to keep it that way.
That's true.
And I guess I have a lot of work to do.
That's us.
Then I'd better get us some hair tonic.
Only one hair?
Mm-hmm. Curly, please.
Curly.
You know, I bought this blackboard for Bobby.
So we have Bobby.
I'll be glad when you can rub those spots off.
So will I.
Are you going to buy that electric train?
That's our train. It's going to take us on our second honeymoon.
To Los Angeles?
Why not? Bobby will certainly be well by then.
It's not only Bobby, it's you. David, even if they do ask you to the convention, you must not go.
Says who?
Me. And Mr. O'Toole.
Now gives fortune tellers.
Well, he said if you should take a trip, you'd have a terrible accident.
Oh, get out of here.
Hello.
Good morning.
What brings you out so early?
Oh, just to tell you that I'd like to come to one of your parties someday so that I could mess it up like you did mine.
What'd I do?
Nothing, except that at 10 o'clock you calmly walk out like a Pied Piper, leaving me with one irate wife who wanted to know where her husband vanished to.
You? Nice.
I didn't know where you'd gone. I couldn't tell her.
Couldn't Mr. O'Toole tell her?
Touché. When Phil finally got back, he said you'd had quite a scare with Bobby. How is he this morning?
He's much better. The doctor just this minute left him.
May I see him?
Long enough to give him his present. What is it?
None of your business. David home?
No, he's out with Elizabeth Van Doren going over some of her property.
Well, you two don't go out often, but when you do, you really go to town. Who's sending you flowers?
Nobody. Probably looking for someplace else. I could wring David's neck spending all that money for flowers when we have a garden full of them. Hey! White roses, that's different. I could still wring his neck. They must have cost a fortune.
Look, Mommy. A bunny.
Oh, isn't that a cute one?
And it squeaks, too. Do you know that? Or whatever else it is that a rabbit does. Look.
What's in that box?
Your daddy sent me some flowers. Pretty? I better get them in water. They'll look nice downstairs.
If I didn't know your husband so well, I'd say these flowers bear every indication of a guilty conscience.
It's more on account of Bobby's being sick, I think. We almost had our first quarrel last night.
Your first?
Not our first fight. Our first quarrel.
Jealousy reared its ugly head, I take it.
Mm-hmm. The eternal triangle.
Well.
Mother, father, and son.
Oh, that kind of a triangle.
Oh, a love message. Isn't Isn't David the limit?
What's the matter?
These flowers aren't from him at all. Listen, thank you for letting me share an important hour in your life. Signed, Philip Dexter. Has an interesting handwriting. Isn't that sweet of him?
Claudia, I don't want to be one of those sisters-in-law, but I wish you'd listen to me.
Sure, what?
Be careful when it comes to Phil.
You mean he goes around giving every woman he meets his oysters? I see.
But you don't see it all. Phil happens to be one of the finest men I've ever known.
Well, that's what I think, so what's to be careful about?
He has a wife, you know. Ever since their son died, Edith's been a little on the hysterical side. Phil's an angel to her. He's afraid she's heading for a complete breakdown, so don't you be the one to set her off.
She needn't worry. I'm not interested in her husband. I've got a perfectly good one of my own. Which reminds me, where is he? It's after 1 o'clock, and I told him lunch at 1:15. The chops are simply ruined.
No, they're not. Where's Bertha?
Upstairs, reading to Bobby. What do you mean they're not? Why didn't you phone? You'd be so late.
I'm sorry, darling, but there's no telephone in the middle of an alfalfa field. I didn't realize what time it was till I looked at my watch.
Were you so interested?
Beautiful barns. Real early American.
I had a feeling you might bring Mrs. Van Doren back for lunch.
I asked her if she wanted to have lunch with Candy. I might get her to come back to supper with me, though.
Are you going to see her again this afternoon?
I have to. We still have the whole back half to go over. I want to get my plans drawn, my bids in case I have to go away.
You're not going away, remember? We settled all that this morning. Eat your spinach.
Each yours.
I wish you were a dentist instead of an architect.
Like a toothache?
No, I was just thinking. A woman never looks her best with her mouth stuffed full of cotton. But in a meadow with her hair blowing beautifully, and her hair does blow beautifully, I'll bet.
I actually think you are jealous.
What'll I do about it?
Suffer.
All right, ask her back for dinner tonight. Oh, no, don't. We're having leftovers. Make it next week when Bobby's better, and I'll ask Julia and Hartley and the Dexters. Might be fun. We haven't had a dinner party since when?
Since never.
Oh. Let's make it Wednesday, and that'll give us a chance to get rid of Sunday's leg of lamb.
Good, I'll ask her.
And I'll call Julia and Mrs. Dexter. Oh, by the way, Mr. Dexter sent me some roses today. White, beautiful.
What for?
Julia thinks he likes me. Do you?
Yes, I like you.
And she doesn't think Mrs. Dexter likes it that he likes me.
Well, I don't trust a woman like that to make a mountain out of a molehill.
I'm no molehill.
Look, Don, I have to dash.
You just picked.
Sound like Bertha.
But you did just pick.
We did just pick.
Oh, hush up.
Oh, hush up. Why don't you come with me? Do you good.
And leave Bobby?
Well, I guess you're right. So long, molehill. I'll see you later.
So long.
Then, I'll ask Elizabeth for Wednesday.
Do you call her Elizabeth already?
No, darling. When I want to talk to her, I just say, here, kitty, 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 kitty.
And so Henny Penny said to the little red hen,
What time is Daddy coming home?
soon, I hope.
Where's he gone to?
He's gonna have a wonderful time.
And so Henny Penny said to the little red hen,
Company.
It's your daddy. Oh, hello.
How are we today?
Oh, we're very well, thank you.
There you are, young fellow, and a happy birthday to you.
We don't raise our child to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
This is awfully nice of you. And thank you for the roses. They're lovely.
I'm glad you like them.
Oh, did you know you left your coat here last night?
Yes, I discovered that later.
Look, another bunny.
It's exactly like the one Julia brought him. Isn't that funny?
I asked Edith to buy something. Apparently, they both raided the local toy shop.
2 rabbits is better than 1 anyway.
You have something there, Bertha.
Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Norton. If you go out later, I would love to have some cream cheese for my pie crust on Wednesday.
I'm not going out later, Bertha.
May I get it for you?
Oh, don't believe that cream cheese story. She's just saying that because she thinks I need a breath of fresh air.
That's a good idea. Don't argue about it and come along. Now that we have the cheese,
Which Bertha doesn't need.
how about taking the river road home?
Oh, I really should get back.
Why? Bobby will get along very nicely without you.
You said that just like David. You know, you remind me of David in a great many ways. Maybe that's one of the reasons I like you.
Thanks for the compliment.
You're welcome. It's a compliment for David, too.
That makes it even nicer.
That looks like our station wagon. Is Elizabeth Van Doren's place near here?
So I believe this is the beginning of it. The house was over the hill.
Oh, let's stop. Do you mind? David's going over her property with her. It's not that I'm snooping. As a matter of fact, he asked me to go back with him this afternoon. There they are.
Looks like Phil Dexter. Well, anyway, that's where your kennels will be. And your pig pens, I think we ought to leave just where they were before.
All sounds perfect. Can't we begin right away? Why do we have to wait for bids? It'll take ages.
You're as bad as Claudia.
Hello.
Hello there.
Hello, darling.
Darling.
Dexter? Well, what do you think of the property?
Wonderful. You're slow. Why isn't the house built yet?
That's what I want to know.
My, I'd love to have a place like this.
Be the best thing in the world for Edith.
It would.
Is Van Doren coming Wednesday?
I forgot to ask her.
You're a good one. Mrs. Van Doren, can you come for dinner?
Don't call me Mrs. Van Doren. Yes. When?
All right, I won't. Wednesday evening.
Fine.
Phil and Edith and Julian Hartley. Oh, I forgot the Riddles.
That's good. Come on, I'll show you the barns.
I'm afraid I'll have to take a rain check on that. I promised Edith I'd be home by 5, and it's almost that now. Oh. I hope you don't mind.
Not at all. Some other time, huh?
Sure.
I'll go back with David.
See you Wednesday.
7.
You bet. So long.
So long.
See? He doesn't make his wife worry by being late.
I'm afraid lunch was my fault today, Claudia.
You know, I'm tempted to leave this barn just as it is and go modern on the milk room and Angus sheds.
Mm-hmm. I'd like that.
David?
Mm-hmm.
I think we'd better start home. It's almost supper time.
Oh, it couldn't be. By golly, it is. I'd like to get this down on paper, though, before I quit. Why don't you come home with us? We can keep on working.
Oh, I will not. Claudia doesn't want company barging in on her with a sick youngster. Besides, I want to check up on Candy.
Darling, why don't you take the car and go on home and eat? Elizabeth will drop me off later.
Well, where'll you eat?
We'll get a bite at the inn. And if you're a good girl, I'll drop around and see you tonight before you go to bed.
Well, can't you finish it tomorrow or some other day?
No, it's still fresh in my mind. Besides, next week I'll be up to my ears with that job in town.
Oh.
If I were Claudia, I'd be furious with you.
Oh, Claudia's a good architect's wife. Aren't you, dear?
No. I'll see you later. Goodbye, Elizabeth, and don't forget Wednesday evening.
I won't.
I'll take you down to the car.
I saw it. I know where it is.
I'll be right back. Sulking?
I'm not sulking. I'm mad. I'm so mad I could commit murder. A whole beautiful Saturday and Bobby's birthday to boot, and
He has the measles.
yes, and he nearly died. And you spend the entire day and now the evening with a comparatively strange woman,
Well, it so happens it's part of my job.
which I notice you seem to enjoy pretty much.
If you're in earnest, that's kind of petty, isn't it?
I am in earnest, and it isn't petty.
Then you must be tired.
I'm not tired. Stop trying to find excuses for me. Anyway, I notice you're not denying anything.
I have nothing to deny.
You like her, don't you?
Of course I like her. Why shouldn't I like her? Do you think marriage means the beginning and end of all human contact?
You seemed to think so last night before the party.
Oh, I don't know what to say to you, Claudia. You have to fight this thing out with yourself. I can't help you.
I don't want your help.
Oh, you little
And
fool.
don't touch me. I'm to stay as long as you like, and I don't care if you never come home. Oh.
Your maid said she expected you back an hour ago. That's why I waited.
Mrs. Dexter, how awfully nice of you to come. Bobby's a lot better.
I'm not interested in your child. Why should I be when his own mother hasn't got enough decency to stay at home with him at a time like this? Apparently, marriage and children don't mean anything to people like you. From what I gather, your little boy almost died last night. And today I saw your husband gallivanting around the countryside with Elizabeth Van Doren. And you've been out all afternoon with Phil. Well, I'm here to tell you, I won't have it.
Mrs. Dexter, you're crazy.
Don't you dare use that word to me. I'm not crazy. And I'm not imagining things.
I think you'd better go.
I was suspicious when he left the house. At 5 o'clock, when he didn't come back, I came to see for myself.
There was no reason for you to be suspicious.
Wasn't there? Let me tell you something. When a man asks his wife to buy a toy for another woman's child, he's falling in love with her, whether he knows it or not.
That's ridiculous.
Believe me, it isn't. I've seen it happen before.
Well, it hasn't happened here. I'm not interested in your husband, and he isn't really interested in me.
You're lying, and I can prove it. Why don't you deny that he sent you these?
I don't deny it. He did.
3 times in our married life, Phil sent me white roses. Once on our wedding day. And again when little Phil was born. And then, just after he...
Mrs. Dexter, I don't know quite what to say to you. I'm sure you don't believe the things you've said. You couldn't, because they're not true. I know what you're going through.
Yes, you do.
When Phil came here this afternoon, he didn't come to see me. I know that. He came because, well, we're happy here. It's the kind of life he misses. In a way, it's a tribute to you, the person you used to be.
I don't know what you mean, the person I used to be. You don't know me as I used to be.
That's true, but I know you now. I can see how selfish you are. You can't own the people you love. Even grief won't give you that right. I can see how a man could come to hate a woman who tried to chain him up just because they happen to be parents of the same children.
Is that what Phil told you? That he hated me?
No, of course he didn't.
Well, I don't blame him if he does. I hate myself. I hate you, too. I hate you for having a son, for being able to have more sons. Phil needn't worry. He won't have me on his hands much longer.
Don't say that, Mrs. Dexter. I lost someone, too, and I didn't think I could go on living. It was my mother. We were very close. But I didn't actually lose her. I still feel her near me. And if that's true, then young Phil is very close to you. And he wouldn't want you to act.
Don't you think I've told myself that? I'm so confused these days. I don't know what I'm doing. Phil finds out I've been here like this.
He won't find out. Unless you tell him. You came to see Bobby. You'll pull yourself together. You've got to. We're having a few guests in for dinner on Wednesday night. We'd love to have you and Phil come. All right.
All right. I'm so grateful to you.
Funny as it may seem, Mrs. Dexter, I'm the grateful one.
Sorry, darling. I felt like a heel all evening.
A heel? Why should you feel like a heel? You mean about this afternoon? David, candy for me? Oh.
But aren't you still mad?
Mad about what? Oh, darling. Just because you're married doesn't mean you're tied hand and foot. And if other women don't find you attractive, why should I? I don't want leftovers.
I don't get it.
You don't get what?
When you took off this afternoon, you were practically divorcing me. Now you're bubbling over with love. What happened?
Oh, nothing. When I got home, I looked into the mirror and I didn't like what I saw, that's all.
You're amazing.
I like you, too.
Well, don't get too saintly. I couldn't stand that either. Oh, by the way, next time you're in town, pick up a toy for me, will you? Something nice for Elizabeth's youngster?
Ouch.
Hello? Oh, yeah, he's upstairs. He just got home. 1 minute, please.
Who is it, Bertha?
Someone for Mr. David.
What kind of a someone?
It was a lady's voice.
Yeah. Hold it. Just a minute. Go ahead, Miss Drake. I heard Mrs. Norton. It's going to be a tough job to sell her on this trip. That's why I didn't want her to know about the invitation. Yet. I know most women would, but she doesn't want to be away from the youngster that long. Say, what about flying? That'd take 6 days off the travel time. Try to get 2 plane reservations for the 22nd. We ought to be able to get them. That's 3 full weeks from today. Yes, 2. I'm sure she'll go when the time comes. Good. And thanks for staying out at the office this late, but I had a hunch the wire might come through tonight. Goodbye. And thanks again.
Hey, Mrs. Norton! Claudia?
Stop holding it in your cheeks, Bobby. You've got to swallow sooner or later or bust.
Didn't you hear me call?
I was feeding Bobby his supper.
He's old enough to feed himself.
That's your opinion.
What's the matter?
I'll tell you what's the matter. Bobby, swallow. You just didn't have to close the door on me, even if you were talking to Elizabeth Van Dorn.
Oh, no, not again. The other night you said it was all right. You wanted other women to find me attractive.
Well, that was the other night. This is completely different. You just didn't have to close the door on me, that's all.
You little idiot. Bobby, finish your supper by yourself. Come in here. In the first place, I wasn't talking to Elizabeth.
Then why did you close the door?
All right, if you must know everything, I'll tell you. I was talking to Miss Drake.
Oh.
I wanted to surprise you about being invited to the convention.
You're not going to Los Angeles. Remember what Mr. O'Toole said about the train accident.
We're not going by train. We're flying.
Well, flying or not, it's putting a whole ocean between us.
You're thinking of Europe. There's no ocean between here and California.
Well, continent, 32 states.
Now you're thinking of teeth. For states, it's 48.
That's even worse. 48 states away from a sick child?
But the convention is 3 weeks off. Anyway, Bertha'll be here.
Bertha isn't flesh and blood.
Seems to me there's an awful lot of flesh and blood to Bertha.
Well, you know what I mean. David, please don't make it so hard for me to say no.
You're making it hard for yourself. But if you really feel that way about it, I guess I'll have to go alone.
Must you?
Yes, it'll mean a great deal to me professionally.
Then please don't fly.
And you don't want me to go by train. How do you want me to go? Walk?
Not go at all.
Darling, you're in a bad way. You don't want to leave Bobby because you're afraid something will happen to him. You don't want me to go alone because you're afraid something will happen to me. And you're afraid if I stay here, I'll fall in love with Elizabeth Van Dorn.
I guess I am in a bad way, but I just can't help it.
Yes, you can. I remember something your mother once said to me. She said, Claudia must learn to make friends with pain. She must learn to hold close with open hands. Your mother was a wise and wonderful woman.
I know.
Now, look. I'm going to write it for you. And I want you to copy it 50 times. Will you? Like a good girl?
Hello? Julia? Fine. Fine. No, thanks. I don't need anything for tomorrow night. We have finger bowls. But we don't need anybody. Fritz is going to serve. Don't worry, Julia. It will be a very nice party. I will if we need anything. Thanks very much. Bye. No, 7 o'clock, not 8. David doesn't like to wait that long, and I get hungry, too. Well, I've told all the others 7 o'clock. Goodbye. The nerve of Julia. To hear her talk, you wouldn't even think I knew how to give a dinner party.
Why, of course you do.
Of course I do.
I bet it'll be a heck of a lot more fun than any of Julia's.
I love you.
No.
David,
You asked for it.
No!
You asked for it.
No, please! Oh,
Fritz!
Yeah, Mama?
Better you get washed up now. It's late.
Yeah. What time the people coming?
7 o'clock, and you be ready. Your white coat is all clean. Looks just like Mr. David when he's joking with you.
the image?
You want I should help you dress?
What's to help? Oh, Bertha, you can light the candles now so they won't look so new for dinner.
Yeah.
Bobby?
I want a drink.
You just had a drink.
I'll have some more.
No, you don't. You just want someone in here.
You going out?
Nope, we're giving a party here.
Is Daddy gonna be at the party?
Yes, I've decided to invite your daddy.
Where is he?
He'll be home in a minute. Now, you go to sleep.
Tell Daddy to come to see me when he comes home.
Well, he always does, doesn't he?
Yes.
Here he is now. He's mighty anxious to get home. Driving like a madman.
Fritz! Fritz!
Daddy?
Oh, darling.
That's all he told you.
It was enough. Don't say anything to Mrs. Norton until I find out.
Come back quick, telephone, anything, so soon you see.
Yeah, Mama, as soon as I can.
What is it?
It is an accident to Mr. David's car. I go now to see
Oh,
him.
Mrs. Norton.
Fritz! You see,
I don't know. It just happened. I go find out.
I'll go with you.
No, stay here. Don't go.
She's right. It's better she goes.
Here, put this over her.
Yeah.
Where do they take him?
Dr. Harry's office.
Did Hans say if...
Hans just say pretty bad. Don't look, Mrs. Norton.
wait in here. Doctor's with him. He'll come to you as soon as he can. I'll tell him you're here.
The other man is George Mason. He was drunk. They smell liquor when they get him out.
I'm glad it wasn't David's fault. He's so proud of his driving.
David's alive. That's all I can say at present. I've called the ambulance.
Let me go with him.
He isn't conscious. It's better for you not to go.
Is he... will he...
I don't know.
Dr. Harry, tell me he'll be all right. The way you told me Bobby'd be all right.
My dear child, I wish I could be as certain as I was with Bobby. I can't make an extensive examination until I get him to the hospital.
He might ask for me.
If he does, I'll call you. You better stay in here. We go home now. It is good they came. You will not be alone now.
You go ahead, Fritz. I'll be right in.
Anybody's hungry.
No, thank you, Bertha.
Some hot coffee, maybe?
No, thank you. Unless you'd like some Hartley.
Mrs. Norton, she's still alone?
And I think it's time one of us went up.
Would you like me to go, Julia?
Would you? I don't think I'd know what to say. Get you a cup of coffee?
What time is it?
Not quite 9.
Dr. Harry hasn't phoned yet.
Not yet.
I can't stand this waiting any longer. I'm going to him.
Well, you'd better change. I'll get you things. This'll do. You looked so nice in it when you came out last Saturday. David spoke of it after you went home.
Last Saturday. I thought David was falling in love with you then. I tried to hold him. I know now you can't hold anyone. Not even from death.
That was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Months after John went, I was still fighting.
Does it ever get any easier?
In time. Life doesn't stop, Claudia. Being with David these last few days has made me realize a lot of things. That John was part of a stream. And his going didn't stop the stream. Can you understand that?
A little. I'm glad David did that for you.
Mommy!
I can't.
He won't want anyone else.
Daddy home?
Not yet, dear.
I'll just say goodnight to him.
I'll say goodnight for him. Night, fella. Sleep well.
Night, Mommy.
Night, darling.
Here. You men must have some coffee.
Thanks, Edith.
Julie's helping Bertha make some sandwiches.
Smells good and strong.
It is.
Don't you think you ought to take some up to Claudia and Elizabeth?
No. Leave them alone.
I'm going to the hospital.
Don't go, dear. Dr. Harry would have phoned if there are any news.
I want to be there.
She's right. You take her, Phil.
If I'm late, you'll see that Edith gets home, won't you, Hartley?
Certainly.
Thanks.
Hello? Yes, Dr. Harry, this is David's brother. Oh, thank God. Thank God.
Known them for years. It was almost like family. I just wanted to thank you for sharing your world with me. It felt like home. Airbnb, belong anywhere.
Stand still now. You want to look nice when Daddy comes home, don't you?
Is come the station wagon?
No, it is not fixed yet. The doctor goes with your mama to bring him home.
I don't have any more spots to on.
No, you are all welcome. 20 cents they come now. See, Buster knows too.
I want to wear my cowboy hat.
No cowboy hat. You look nice this way. Come on.
Nothing here, Dad.
Bertha?
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
Come on.
Did you miss me?
Oh, yeah.
Well, did you?
Well, I should have
Yeah.
missed you.
Now you've had a long trip. You're tired. Come sit down and rest.
I'm not tired. I'm a well man.
You were a lucky man, David. If that had been a fracture instead of a concussion, you wouldn't be having this homecoming today.
Don't I know it?
How long do I have to wear this thing?
That's only to relieve the pressure on that broken rib. You can take it off any time you like now.
No sooner said than done.
Oh, now my trouble begins. He'll be wanting to go back to the office tomorrow.
How'd you guess? Next week, California. How about it, Doc?
Best thing in the world for both of you. May I use your phone? I want to telephone my office.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Bertha. Here, drink it.
What is it?
Orange juice
Oh.
with an egg in it.
What for?
Well, to build up your concussion.
Oh, it's my head.
But you have to drink it.
Stop treating me like an invalid. You heard what Dr. Harry said just now, didn't you?
You bribed him. He is right, anyway. I've already discussed it with him. The trip will do you good.
Then you better start shopping for a new evening dress, Mommy. Why don't you take your jacket off? You're home now.
Because I like it. And don't call me Mommy. Don't worry. You don't have to be ashamed of toting along a dowdy wife. I'm not going.
I thought there was a catch in it. What now?
Stop putting on an act. You know perfectly well you want me to stay home. Here, put your feet up.
I don't want to put my feet up. What's this nonsense about not wanting you?
Don't yell. I can prove it.
Go ahead, prove it.
All right, I will. When Dr. Harry said you could go, I called the airport to surprise you.
Surprise me? How?
To get a seat on your plane, of course.
Oh, and?
I didn't have any.
I could have told you that.
Well, why didn't you?
You didn't ask me.
Why should I have to ask you? You should have to ask me.
But you said you didn't want to go.
Oh, you should have enough sense to know I changed my mind.
Why?
Because Bobby's had his measles, your accident's behind us, and I haven't a thing in the world to worry about.
Oh, you're still harking back on what that faker O'Toole said.
How can you call him a faker when everything he's predicted has come true?
Look, I'm a sick man. My arm's in a sling. I'm not strong enough to hear anything more about O'Toole. Now, let's get this thing straight. If you'd been able to get a seat on that plane, it would have been right for you to go?
Right. I'm a fatalist.
Since when?
Since you've had your accident.
Good. That's one thing it accomplished. Now, suppose there's a cancellation.
Not a chance. The man at the airport said there was a waiting list a mile long, and I'm on the tail end of it.
Oh, that's tough. Here you are all dressed up in a new philosophy and no place to go.
Well, I'll be running along. Phone you in the morning, David.
All right, Doc. That's right. See Dr. Harry to his car. You know you're dying to ask him a dozen questions you don't want me to hear. How'd you stand her, Doc?
She was pretty good.
You all pipe scraper?
Goodbye, David.
Goodbye, Doc. And thanks.
He's awfully well for a sick man.
Oh, in a couple of days, he'll be as good as new.
Operator, get me long distance. Long distance, get me Consolidated Airways, New York City. Thank you. I'll hold on.
And you do think it's all right his traveling alone with that broken rib?
It's better for him to travel with it than without it. Don't you worry. He's going to be all right.
Well, if you say so. Goodbye, Dr. Harry. Thanks for everything.
That's all right. I'll phone you in the morning.
Oh, Mrs. Riddle, hello.
How are you today?
Fine, thank you.
Look whom I have with me.
Hello, Mrs. Norton.
Oh, Mr. O'Toole, hello.
What a charming place you have here.
Yes, isn't it? Aren't I lucky? I finally persuaded him to spend a weekend with us. He's giving another seance tomorrow night, and it just occurred to me that you might like to come and find out more about your husband.
Oh, I don't have to. He's fine. He just came home from the hospital.
Isn't that wonderful?
The hospital? Has he been ill?
Why, Mr. O'Toole, didn't you know?
Sorry to trouble you like this, but it's rather a special case. You'll be sure to call me right back, won't you? Thanks. Goodbye.
I could wring his neck. He didn't know a thing about it.
He didn't?
No. Has he been ill? He asked me, as if nothing had happened, after telling us.
Well, I guess poor old Dr. Harry couldn't take it anymore. He's gone crazy, too.
Don't be silly. It wasn't Dr. Harry. Nancy Riddle just drove past.
Begin all over again, would you?
She had that faker O'Toole with her. Oh, what's the use of talking to you? You never did believe in people being psychic.
On the contrary, I believe in it very much. In fact, I think I'm a little psychic myself. Very shortly, this telephone will ring. Answer, it's for you.
I will not answer it. You ask the operator to ring it.
It is not operator. You better answer it. It's important news about a trip. The spirits say you're supposed to go on a trip with a tall, handsome man with beautiful eyes and a sling.
No sense. Hello? Yes, this is Mrs. Norton. You have? For the 22nd? Oh, that's marvelous. Well, be sure and hold on to it. Be sure now. All right, goodbye. Oh, I almost forgot to thank you. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Oh, David, a cancellation.
Well, what do you know?
Oh, you beast. You had 2 tickets all the time. Why didn't you tell me?
You didn't ask me.
Oh, be careful of your rib.
My dear young lady, be careful of your own.